current statement that we've received from New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is, of course, a very interesting and a deeply important statement and, of course, a very interesting contradiction coming in.
Well, of course, a contradiction kind of coming in, but we can expect a kind of a statement. There will be, of course, the press conference by the State Ministry of Defence, the same person who made the statement in the first place yesterday in the Parliament when he said that there is a local group which is responsible for the terror attack. But he also confirmed that this is in retaliation to the attacks which took place in New Zealand. So in that press conference, we can expect much more details. But by and large, we also know that the Islamic State has claimed responsibility. Late yesterday night, they released a video in which they showed the alleged bombers of the churches and the hotels here in Sri Lanka. The worst terror attack Sri Lanka has seen in many years, perhaps the worst in its history since independence. And of course, we also know that there is a kind of a battle which is now raging between the Prime Minister and the President. The Prime Minister spoke yesterday at 6 p.m. in which he, of course, said there can be some misunderstandings, but by and large, the focus, of course, is and will be the people of this country. But later on, we saw the statement coming from the President. He addressed to the nation at 9:30 local time and, of course, said that he had no intelligence information regarding the terror attacks.
Right. Siddhant, we are going to come to you for more questions, but for now it's also important to tell our viewers about how 2 days after the series of blasts in Sri Lanka, the country's Prime Minister briefed the media on the progress of the investigation. This is something Siddhant was just talking about, and he also spoke about the differences within the government. Ranil Wickremesinghe blamed the President for not sharing intelligence inputs on possible attacks with him. The Sri Lankan Prime Minister said that there was a breakdown of communication between the Prime Minister's office and of the President's. He added that had there been better communication, the attacks on Sunday could have been averted or at least minimalized.
I met the President, I spoke to the President the day it took place, and we agreed, we recommended the police curfew and the armed forces come out, and we discussed this on Monday and decided to bring the emergency in for certain purposes, only limited purposes. We had a meeting and said, we have difference of opinion, but that's been thrashed out, and somehow, look, we've got to get the country out of this problem. I don't think we can start putting personal issues in front.
The Sri Lankan Prime Minister asserted that the differences between him and President Sirisena were thrashed out. He said that it was now time to fight the crisis together and put national security above personal differences. Hours after the Sri Lankan Prime Minister blamed the President for not sharing crucial intel, the country's President has finally spoken out. Denying allegations of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, the President has now said that he was not aware of any intel. He said that he expects to change the heads of defence forces within the next 24 hours. Now, for more details on this news story, let's go back to Siddhant Sibal, who's reporting on behalf of WION live from Colombo. Siddhant, do you think, going by what we just, read out to our audiences, do you think that the political unrest in Sri Lanka has been the cause for this intelligence failure?
Well, that's being discussed from the day one, that because of the public fights which the country has seen between the Prime Minister and the President, the intelligence could not reach the persons who could have taken certain action which could have prevented the tragedy. Remember, the Prime Minister has acknowledged that there was intelligence, and WION also has learned that India had indeed shared specific intelligence and shared the threat of jihadi terrorism to Sri Lanka with everyone here in Sri Lanka, including the opposition. But it seems that everyone was looking and more indulging in kind of political brinkmanship, and that resulted in kind of political instability in this country. We know in last 8 months there has been, of course, a lot of complexities regarding the political scenario, and with this terror attack it has only garnered more and more kind of crisis-like situation, and that is something that the people of this country would not like to see after the terror attack. Today is, of course, the third day since the terror attack took place, and normalcy is still to return to this country. Of course, there are vehicles on the ground, and of course, there is some semblance of life here in the city of Colombo, but the city also sees a curfew almost every day. Yesterday was the third day of curfew, and almost no one can move out once it's the curfew time after like 8 p.m. Or 9 p.m. And the threat is real, and the threat is still on. There are specific intelligence reports that there could be another series of attack. In fact, yesterday the police authorities issued a high alert saying that there might be a vehicle, a van with explosives in the city of Colombo.
Right. Also, Siddhant, do we expect any reshuffle of sorts in the defense cabinet, and is it too little too late?
Well, definitely it is too little too late, because the tragedy has happened and people here are picking up the pieces. Yesterday, in fact, was the first day of mass burials which took place, and there were heartbreaking scenes. These scenes are all across the newspapers today, the front pages of the newspapers here in Sri Lanka. Of course, all the political leaders have been saying that heads must roll, but it's kind of taking a decision a little too late, because there was intelligence. It could have been averted, the incident which happened, but because of the political instability, because half of the government was not talking to other half of the government, and in fact the Prime Minister, there are reports that the Prime Minister was not allowed to sit in the National Security Committee meet, that had led to this terror attack.
Absolutely, some major failures out there and a lot of answering to be done by the government in Sri Lanka. And while we speak, Siddhant, there's some more breaking input coming in from the country, as Sri Lankan government is considering a burqa ban. United National Party MP Ashu Marasinghe presented a private member motion in the parliament to ban the burqa. Now remember, several female accomplices involved in incidents in Dematagoda had escaped wearing burqas. So this is the latest breaking input that we are bringing to you, that the government in Sri Lanka is finally considering a burqa ban. For more on this news story, let me go across to Siddhant Sibal, who is reporting on behalf of WION live from Colombo at this moment. Siddhant, what is the latest that you're picking on about this burqa ban the government is finally considering?
Well, the government is very serious when it comes to burqa ban. In fact, the government sources have confirmed to local channels that it is not only serious, but it might come into effect very, very soon. But if we look at the history of burqa here, as one of the private members, as a private bill has been introduced by one of the MPs in the parliament, he has clearly mentioned that burqa is not part of the Sri Lankan attire, and it was only introduced because of the extremist ideology, especially after the Gulf War which happened. So clearly there is a certain kind of backlash which is expected to happen. We know that communal tensions are a little bit high also in this country, but by and large the security personnel and the authorities are making sure that there is no incident, but that is something the government is considering, and that of course can have little ramifications as well, given the fact that extremists were involved in the entire terror attack which took place in Sri Lanka on Sunday.
Siddhant, my last question to you is that if you look at Sri Lanka's history in retrospect, the violence has more or less been ethical. There's been ethnical violence so far, but I'm sorry. Now, if you look at the history of violence, it's not been so far communal. And that's what, when we were talking to people in Sri Lanka, that's what we discovered, that, these 8 explosions that rocked Sri Lanka on Sunday, they seem to be driving a wedge between 2 minority communities which were so far living very peacefully, and I'm talking about the Christians and the Muslims in Sri Lanka.
This time it's really different. I've been speaking to politicians. Most of them do not want to speak on camera, but what they say is that what has happened on Sunday is very different from what it was happening 10 years ago during the LTTE insurgency. In fact, Sri Lanka was to celebrate, in a sense, 10 years of peaceful peace and stability here in the country in the aftermath of the end of the insurgency by the LTTE. But this peace was shattered by the terror attack, and as the Prime Minister has said that with these terror attacks, Sri Lanka is now a victim and of course part of the global terror network which have been causing a lot of terror attacks across the region and across the world. And he clearly differentiated that what was LTTE insurgency was different, and these are very difficult time because nobody knows what exactly is happening. And of course the terror attack is causing a kind of a communal tension as well. There are of course locations in the north of the country and the east of the country where tensions can be a little bit more high, but this can have a major impact on the social fabric of this very, very diverse country.
It absolutely will, Siddhant, because Sunday's explosions, those 8 explosions, have clearly marked a shift in Sri Lanka from ethnic to communal violence. Now, thank you so much, Siddhant Sibal, for bringing us all the latest from Sri Lanka, and it will be...